Welcome, everybody, to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest-running sales training podcast in the history of podcasts. My name is Brian Neal.
My name is Bill Caskey.
Just if you're watching on YouTube, saw the banner come in with just beautiful, pristine timing. I mean, Bill's he's running the audio board, the video board, the edits, the fly-ins.
The
guy's multitasking. You can't even tell. But he did just pop up on the banner. If you can't see this, you're listening. AdvancedSellingPodcast.com/insider. Bill had a little thing he showed the last time we recorded, and I was very impressed. Do you want to show that thing again? Or could you have it nearby? Your book.
Yeah,
your book.
Yeah.
Your book.
Yeah. Here's the deal. We have a book that I went back and wrote after looking at the insider content for the last year. And it's called Insiders. It's called 12 Bold Moves, Insider Secrets to Reinventing Yourself and Your Results. And I went back and took the 12 most important, most game-changing, needle-moving, most important things, vital things that you can do in 2024. So go to 12boldmoves.com.
12boldmoves.com.
Bold moves.
The number 12, 12.
Yes.
Boldmoves.com. 12boldmoves.com. That's awesome. Yeah.
And I think you'll like it. It's there we go.
Oh, look at oh my God. I'm blown away.
Got
Bill, but you got to watch this on YouTube, gang. You got to see that. I mean, what's a video program now? What do they call these things? Vodcast? Are we a vodcast now, Bill?
A vodcast?
I don't even know if that's a thing. It's a video podcast, a vodcast.
Oh, yeah.
Did I just invent something? I hope I did. Vodcast? I've never heard it before. I mean, look at this. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to find our correct video. Anyway, so here's something that happened to me this weekend. Have you ever been to a concert where you're really looking forward to it and you get there and it doesn't deliver?
Not a lot, but yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely do a little expectation building before concerts usually. Yes.
Yeah. And I try not to, especially if the artist is older, because I've seen older artists who don't have it anymore. I've seen like Ann Wilson with Heart, who had it. I mean, she could barely walk on stage, but once she got there, her voice was fine. And I've also seen people like Gordon Lightfoot, who was one of my favorite folk singers from Canada. I saw him a couple of times. Like, what are you doing? Still touring? Yeah. Well, I went Saturday to a concert. Name is Bruce Hornsby.
Oh yeah, no Bruce Hornsby.
Bruce Hornsby in the Range, and he was popular in the 70s and 80s. And my wife got his tickets. We were going with another couple, and before a concert, I always like, especially if I'm not familiar with the person's music, go back on YouTube and listen to it a little bit. Just kind of, oh yeah, that's right, because I only thought Bruce Hornsby had one song, and he actually had four top.
He did.
And and we get there, and it's a 2.5-hour concert. That's how it's built. 2.5 hours with a 20-minute intermission, which I don't like the whole intermission thing. It's like, just do it all in an hour and a half. Get us out of there, Well, he played for an hour, the first hour before the intermission. Nobody in the Palladium recognized one song he did.
Right.
Nothing. It was all either new or, like obscure. And he had this band with him from New York, and they had 2 violins, an oboe, a bass, a saxophone, and a French horn.
Awesome.
Yeah. When you hear it, it was like, what the hell? And the violinist was like, I mean, it was really raising blood pressure. And I told my buddy Terry Brookie afterwards, I said, when he got this band to play with him, he should have told them, look, you can't all play at one time. Right? You can't all be. And then they play a song that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of hear the chords, when it starts, like, oh, I think this is this. And then the songs are unrecognizable because of the way they've been arranged, because he's probably sick and tired of playing the same song for 42 years. He's like, I got to rearrange this thing to keep myself. And then it was rearranged to the point where you can even figure out what it was.
It's painful.
So anyway, it was terrible.
It's like, I don't know. I struggle with that because I see a little bit of both sides, but not really. I see mostly I see this fan side because the artist has been rewarded by the fans.
That's right.
By buying records and streaming and downloading and then buying tickets. And in a basic business transaction, you and I, hopefully, we try to, bring people a good experience and good value and things that are worth the money. Then they pay us for that. And so they don't pay us and then we do whatever the hell we want. It's not how it works.
Right.
right? I mean, imagine if someone paid you, Bill, to come in and work with their sales team. You did this whole agenda and a syllabus and everything, and then you came in and just decided to do whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
You'd get fired. I would too, right?
Yeah.
But artists, they got that kind of like a little bit of entitlement. Like I can do whatever. It's like a free ticket to be artistic because they're artists.
They're coming to see me.
Gosh,
drives
me nuts. And it's one thing to do it. You know, if you're John Bon Jovi or Bruce Springsteen or the Rolling Stones, go ahead, man. You've earned that. I mean, you Prince, past, not here anymore.
Yeah.
Bruce Hornsby, bro, come on, man.
When you see
the
Rolling Stones,
right.
It's 3 hours of nothing but their hits.
Right.
They don't say, hey, we're going to play something from our latest album here.
No, and it's exactly how they were. I saw the Eagles, second best concert I've ever seen. Eagles, so tight. Eagles. Exactly. I mean, they get it, right? That's why they can keep going on tour and selling out.
The sound quality, the Eagles are they're second to none.
Bruce Hornsby pop wise when I was in high school, late high school, early college. So I'm very familiar with Bruce Hornsby. He was part of our, part of the soundtrack of my youth, so to speak. And I won't be seeing him anytime soon.
Well, here's the last thing I'll say about this is he had a song called Mandolin Rain.
Mandolin Rain. Great song, yeah.
And so he was up on stage and he had these 3 mandolins, had the mandolin of the stand where the guitar set, 3 mandolins behind his, and I'm like, I just love, that's my favorite song, all he does.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Never played it.
Didn't play them. Looked at them. Just a prop. They weren't even tuned.
No, they weren't even there. Okay, let's move on.
We're done. That was good. That was really fun to talk about. Let's see. This kind of goes along a little. Well, kind of. We're going to talk about accountability, but not in the way most people think we're going to talk about accountability. Bill and I in pre-show we're talking about this, and both of us, and sometimes we don't see the world the same way. In this case, we do. So this might get a little ranty to start with. But both Bill and I work with sales teams. We both work with sales leaders who lead sales teams and or CEOs who lead sales leaders who lead sales teams. And if we hear one thing every day, all the time, we hear this urge, this desire, this push, this press to create a culture of accountability. Mm-hmm. And we tell the sales leaders, you got to hold your team accountable to behavior. You got to hold your team accountable to results. You got to hold your team accountable.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here going, if you have to hold your team accountable, you have a really bad culture on your sales team because you got it backwards. Hold them accountable to me means that they may not want to do something or they won't do something without you. So you have to make them or give them a consequence if they don't. There's nothing else. There's no other way I can make that make sense, And so if that's the case, we got to look in the mirror here and say, what are we doing here trying to create a culture of accountability when it comes like, Bill, I'm going to hold you accountable to doing the things dirty dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's that. Yeah, there's that. And there's the whole what gets measured gets improved.
Yeah.
There's all these tropes, these little, what are they called? Aphorisms or whatever.
Platitudes.
The deal with accountability.
Yeah.
I do think, though, in defense of those who talk about you have to hold people accountable, I do think your culture can be created so that people want to do the work versus having to do the work only when they're held accountable for. Like, I'm watching you. But I think there's a culture of accountability where, look, I'm going to bring my best to the game, to the field every day.
Yes.
And you look at great football teams, their culture is built around, oh no, we're going to get there 20 minutes early. We're going to do it. We're going to look at the films. We're not going to slough off. We're going to say yes sir, no sir, or whatever. And I think there is something to that culture of accountability. If you're a VP of sales and sales manager, you have to hold people accountable. It's probably because you haven't built the culture of accountability.
That's the trick. And that's what I want to hit on a bit. I was even listening. I don't want to get too far into football, but when my youngest kids, getting ready to go through a senior year. They have their 2024-25 kickoff meeting yesterday afternoon. And he had a coach come and talk about, recruiting and things like that. One of the things he said I was recruiting a quarterback and I was talking to the parents and the mom said, well, when I woke TJ up the other day for school, ... The coach was like, whoa. Time out. You woke him up? Well, yeah, And he's like, didn't offer him because it's like the kid's got to get up on his own. I mean, it's just baked into the cake and we just don't realize these little things. Story. isn't it though? It's such
Great
a
story.
pivot moment.
How we do anything is how we do everything. And
Yeah.
if your parents having to wrestle you out of bed in the morning to get to school, that's a sign.
It says something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It says something. So I want to talk about some things that our listeners, because the 2/3 of the people that listen to this podcast are salespeople. And I think this is where it starts. So I want to talk a little bit about what salespeople can do on their own to think about accountability for themselves and what that really means for them versus having to have my boss hold me accountable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this is all part of the month where we're talking about forecasting and motivation, incentive. One of our friends are going to be on here in a couple of weeks from Xactly, and they do this kind of thing. And so we wanted to give you guys kind of a month full of this thinking and these concepts so that when Taylor comes on, you'll be ready for him.
That's for sure. So can I take a hit here?
Take a hit.
Take a hit doesn't sound good. See, I don't do that. Never done that, but it's old school, right? 70s, Bill. Can I take a hit? Send that thing around.
I don't think it's old. Yeah, the one hitter.
No, it's actually fullback. It's
the one hitter.
I'm not a partaker, but I trust you. Let's see. Let's talk about this first.
Goody two shoes.
Well, no. There's an occupational reason I don't do.
Oh yeah, true.
Let's see. So let's just talk about. So you're a salesperson. Let's talk about this idea of accountability. You think of your boss holding you accountable. I just want you to think about your own commitment to yourself, because this is where it starts. And I almost look at this as a kind of almost a unique form of self-care, is for you to take inventory of you. And we all have versions of this. All of us do in some way, shape, or form. And there are some things that you would always do. Naturally, you just do them, right? Whether like you said, like some people get up early and go for a walk or work out early. You've got some discipline in your life and something. Maybe in your sales life, you're really, really consistent with posting on LinkedIn. So the first thing to me is you take inventory of where you already are accountable to yourself, and then places where you're not as accountable to yourself that you'd like to be or you think you should be. I use LinkedIn as an example. Some of us are very disciplined on LinkedIn. You're very disciplined. I'm very disciplined on LinkedIn. We're very disciplined with the podcast. We release an episode every Monday. There are probably parts of our world where we're not as disciplined relative to the business, right? And so I think you can't really start this process of culture of accountability bottom up until each individual person takes an inventory of things they are naturally. You don't have to tell Bill and I to come record the podcast.
So you're saying do an inventory of what you just naturally do and are disciplined about, and then also some of those things that you know you should do that you're not.
You got it. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Like I'm really disciplined with connectors. It's very small, but I do it two a month, every month. I'm super disciplined with that. I'm not as disciplined at reaching out with old clients. I always think about like, man, I should reach out to my old clients that I haven't worked with. We got a bunch of new stuff. I think about it all the time. I never do it. Never do it. I have no system, no process. Never do it. To be an example.
Okay. Yeah. Whenever I think of the second column on your assessment, the column of I need to do it, but I don't do it. I kind of take what you just said and I take it to well, there must be something stopping me from it. There must be something in the way, because if I know I should do it, it's probably because I know it will pay off. And then what is in the way from getting me to do it? And so to me, if there's no, this is going to sound really weird. No. If there's no pleasure in the process, you probably won't do it. Like I find pleasure in this, in our relationship. I find pleasure. I think you do too. And 100%. I think people can hear that. So if it was a drain on us and we didn't like each other, or we just felt like, we're doing it because we have to do it because somebody's paying us to do it, I think it wouldn't be we would need to be held accountable for it. But when there's pleasure in the process, I don't think there's an accountability. So if there's things you're not disciplined at and not doing, find the pleasure within them. Look at them differently. Like, let's just say you hate cold calling, but you know damn well that you've got to reach out to know, 100 people a month or whatever.
Yep.
And it just get, you know, and like me, I hate I would never cold call. I would find anything else to do. I would post on LinkedIn. I would create a webinar. I would do all sorts of things. But guess what? Some of those things work better than cold calling.
Yeah.
So this is not about avoiding something that and experiencing shame with it. It's about saying, look, I don't like to cold call. What are some other options? How else can I generate new discussions? And you're going to find a couple there and you're going to say, oh, I would love to do that. I would love to host a podcast or a panel event or a webinar or whatever those things are. So I think sometimes we get one tracked into, well, we have to make cold calls is an example. And we don't say, well, wait a minute, is that the only way to do this?
Right.
It's not. It's usually
right.
not.
That's really good. I wrote down, that's good. I'm going to change it now, even after you just said that. So what I'm picturing now for you listening, so you have these columns, right? So you have these easy to do, easy things, column A, and then we're going to flip out to column D, and we're going to go things that we should be doing that we're not. So forget your boss holding you accountable. You know you should be doing these and you're not. This is like grown-up stuff. Then we have these column B and C. Column B is the pleasure column. So what pleasure do I get and or how can I get that, you know, from that thing over in column D? Or column C is the alternative. So if I know I need to be doing more outbound outreach, I know I've been too busy managing existing accounts and going to internal meetings. I'm not done enough outbound work. And I look at the column D and it says cold call. I'm like, that's outbound work, but I hate it.
Yeah.
Column C is the alternative. Like, what else could I do besides outbound?
That's good.
Then play the same game. Because I think what happens here, Bill, is I think there's underlying deeper resistance around things.
Absolutely.
Right. So if we have, I hate when I say right like that. Right. Right. The upright.
That drives me nuts. I didn't notice it there.
I know.
I've heard it so frequently that it doesn't even register. But you know, right?
I went to a speech the other day. Someone that I know, 14 rights.
Oh, you counted
on a panel.
Chalk.
Oh my gosh. Anywho.
Okay.
I digress. So outbound is the subject. Cold calling is one option. I go to column that's in column D, outbound, then column D says cold calling, column C is my alternative. I go, LinkedIn. I should do LinkedIn, like Bill Caskey said. Then I have resistance around that too. I don't look. There's no joy in column B from doing. So what? And you have this great little worksheet now to think through these things at a deeper level.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I probably misspoke a little bit there. That it's not that I only want you to do things that bring you joy, but if given a choice between doing something you hate or something that gives you joy, you're probably going to be better at the thing where you're joyful as you're doing it. But I also know that, you know, there's some ththings that we do as business owners and as trainers, coaches, people that we just don't enjoy doing.
Yes.
Like, you know, cleaning the garage. Well, I hate cleaning the garage. And sometimes you'll say, you know, the garage is looking a little shoddy lately. Okay. Yeah. And I hate it. And you know what? It takes 15 minutes. It doesn't take, it's not like you have to pull everything out. At least I would never pull everything out. Do it right. I would never do it right. But the point sometimes is you just have to do things you don't want to do. And that's just the world. But if you can keep those to 20% of your time versus 90% of your time, going to be a happier human.
100% you will. Yeah, it's really, really good. Because I think when you start to put everything that Bill and I are talking about together, what happens, sales leaders, listen to this, is there is no holding people accountable. What you've done is created both space and a mechanism to allow them to find their own way to their own personal responsibility. And it's intrinsic. And then there's no holding people accountable to anything.
That's right.
Because that right? It just makes no sense. I mean, and I know you and I get bent on these things too. You know, we're like, everyone should have a podcast. And we believe that. I totally believe that. Or everyone should be posting on LinkedIn 3 times a week or whatever. And I do believe that. And I also recognize some people just have resistance around that. So they're not going to. So you have space in my world to not do it. Then what we can't do is we can't stop exploring though.
That's right.
We can't go, well, what's your other alternative to podcasting? And what would that look like, sound like to the place we find joy? And
we live in a world where the opportunities are almost endless and boundless possibilities for trying something that you don't like to do, trying a different avenue, trying a different vehicle. And so if you leave this and say, yeah, you know what, there are some things I don't like doing, just make a list like Bryan said, have the columns there, say, how can I do this differently so that I would enjoy it and I would do it and I would probably be good at it.
That's it. See, that's the trick. I was just coaching a group the other day, and I've been with them for a few years, 3 years now, maybe something like that. So there's a guy in there who's really awesome, super coachable. And one reason that makes him awesome, he's very open about his resistance to ideas, not in a fighting way.
Yeah.
You know, he really tries to find his way in, but he's like, I'm just not comfortable with this. He'll say stuff like that. He's not, this won't work. That's a bad idea. He's really great. We were talking about some trade show work. And when we teach trade show work, we talk about these roles. One of the roles that we call it the carny. It's the step right up person. So, you know, a trade show booth at a trade show, one of the roles we say you should have is the carny. Step right up, step right up. Okay. You wouldn't catch me doing that if you paid me $1 billion.
This is you talking, or this is
me talking to them. I'm sharing with you.
Oh, okay.
My resistance. I will never do that. I'm awful at it.
Yeah, you don't seem
no. Like, hey, how you doing? I'm Bryan. I couldn't be. I hate it. I'm terrible at it. Blah blah blah. This dude who is not like a real gregarious guy. He goes, I love doing that. I love stopping people. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, oh, I do it all day, every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have to hold him accountable to work in the trade show. I just need to go put him in more trade shows, right?
I love it. And he said the key word. I love doing it.
I love doing it. Hey, I love it.
Okay. You're doing that. You're doing it for all of us.
All of them.
Going to do it the whole show.
See, there you go. So instead of like dividing and conquer and sending different teams to trade shows and sending Bryan Neal to the trade show, who's going to go hide in the corner or the bathroom and not speak to anybody because he's an extroverted introvert, send this dude out because he'll talk to everybody. Yeah. Right.
Hey, once again, before we go, download 12 Bold Moves. Go to 12boldmoves.com. It's awesome stuff from our Insider program. And if you want more information on Insider, there's information there. Go to advancedsellingpodcast.com/insider. And we will be back next week to talk more about the Bruce Hornsby concert.
We're not going to do that, but we are going to talk to our friend Taylor, not Tyler. Taylor, you got to listen just to hear that Tyler thing. That's a thing. Right. Xactly, Xactly.com. Great partner of ours. And go check them out before you get there. And then you'll hear the whole Taylor
awesome.
Toller thing. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.